Back in November, I put out a video titled, "Can Men and Women Get Along in the Workplace?" And I concluded, well, of course they can, because men and women obviously do work together in many capacities and environments. But given the great moral panic of 2017, I think this question is worth revisiting.
Women today, wherever I go, whether it's Italy or Brazil or England or America, okay, or Toronto, okay, the upper middle class professional women are unhappy, miserable. And they don't know why they're unhappy. They want to blame it on men, okay? Men must change. Men must become more like women. No, that is the wrong way to go, okay? It's when men are men, okay, and understand themselves as men, are secure as men, then you're going to be happier.
Yeah, well, there's nothing more dangerous than a weak man.
Yeah, absolutely, okay, and especially all these quislings, okay, spouting feminist rhetoric. When I hear that, okay, it makes me sick. But here's the point. Men and women have never worked side by side, ever. Maybe on the farms, okay, when you were like, maybe one person's in the potato field, the other one's over here in the doing tomatoes or whatever, okay. You had families working side by side, exhausted with each other, no time to have any clash of this. It was a collaborative effort on farms and so on. Never in all of human history have men and women been working side by side. And women are now the pressure about Silicon Valley. They're also sexist. Oh, they don't allow women in and so on. The men are being men in Silicon Valley, all right, and so on. And the
especially
women,
the engineers.
And the women are demanding that, oh, this is terrible, you're being sexist. Maybe the sexes, okay, have their own particular form of rhetoric, their own particular form of, of identity, okay. Maybe, okay, we need to re-examine, okay, this business about, maybe we have to perhaps accept some degree of tension and conflict between the sexes, okay, in a work environment. I don't mean harassment. I'm talking about women feeling disrespected, how somehow their opinions when they express them, okay, are not taken seriously, or even Hillary Clinton is complaining. Oh, when a woman writes something online, she's attacked immediately, and so on. Well, everyone's attacked online. What are you talking about? The world is tough. The world is competitive. Okay, identity is honed. Okay, by conflict. The idea that there should be no conflict, that we have to be in this bath, okay, of approbation.
Yes.
Which is
well,
just,
that's the devouring mother. That's right. It's absolutely infantile.
Now, the key point I want to focus on here is that whenever there's talk about how we should conduct ourselves in the workplace, it is always men that are called on to change their behaviour. What is of utmost importance is making women feel comfortable. And if you make a woman feel uncomfortable, regardless of your intention, you must be punished for it. Now, what kind of a workplace does that create for men? Well, that doesn't matter because men are wrong and they need to change. And what kind of workplace does that create for employers seeking to minimise the friction between males and females in the workplace? Well, there was an article published on Medium a few days ago on this very topic titled, "Why Should We Hire Women?" written by someone that calls themselves Anonymous Poster. For obvious reasons. He's a business owner and doesn't want his livelihood to be destroyed for rejecting the #MeToo narrative. Now, he goes to great lengths in the opening paragraphs to say that he doesn't have a problem with the #MeToo movement and that he's against sexual harassment and assault, as though that actually needs to be said, but identifies two big problems with the current situation. One, accusations alone kill careers and businesses just through the media attention and absence from any investigation or evidence. Two, the narrative of the whole debate is that every claim must be believed, regardless of how ridiculous the claim itself is, and that any questioning of this or that people want an investigation is automatically anti-female. These two social justice paradigms have made it impossible to defend anybody against accusations, regardless how suspicious or shallow the claims were. And it still continues, so we can assume this will stay for way longer than just the next week. Another problem is that the meaning of sexual harassment was widened to include what most of us would consider normal behaviour among adults. This includes, but is not limited to, getting invited for a drink, making somebody a compliment — I think this guy's first language is not English — or standing in the same room. This paints almost any interaction at a workplace in a sexualized context, which in turn makes it almost impossible to be comfortable with each other. This has a major chilling effect on teamwork, arbitration, and general communication. And then he offers up this cringeworthy performance from actor Terry Crews by way of example.
Until men stand up and say this harassment, this abuse, these assaults are wrong, nothing would change. And it's so simple that it's almost laughable. It's one of those things where, hey man, if you are making anybody uncomfortable Don't do that. It's not that hard. Just if you're making anyone uncomfortable in any way, man, woman, child, stop. You're already over the line.
Now that is utterly ridiculous. Firstly, until men stand up and say that harassment and assault is wrong, nothing will change. Well, actually, society has collectively stood up and said that it's wrong. That's why we have laws against it, laws that were passed by men. But I'll tell you what else doesn't change anything: virtue signalling in front of the world like an emasculated whelp. But it's the claim that if you make anyone feel uncomfortable, that you need to stop doing that thing that is the most absurd. As the author notes, congratulations, #MeToo movement. You just made any interaction that could be happening in a normal work relationship also considered to be a possible sexual harassment claim. Never mind that everybody knows these are ridiculous standards, but as we've all seen in the #MeToo outfall, it's the accepted and proven conclusion. And this is not just theoretical, it happens in practice. I noted before Cassie J's Red Pill Raw File clip of the Hewlett-Packard employee that got a negative strike against him on his performance review because he asked a clarifying question about a fellow female employee's occupation. The author goes on to note, now as a business owner myself and somebody who is in voluntary leadership positions, I can tell you one thing: it's impossible to accomplish anything if you're not willing to make someone uncomfortable, especially if you take on a mentor role. Whenever you make a decision, you will offend people, and especially in the workplace. You also have to make clear what people's strengths and weaknesses are so they can improve themselves and their work. Most people that want to progress and grow even welcome that. Right now, the message of #MeToo to men is very clear. As a man, you're automatically a possible rapist. As a man, it is automatically harassment if you make women uncomfortable in any way. And if you say anything against that, then you're just some misogynistic asshole that doesn't want women to succeed or have their freedom. Exactly, you're either on board with the narrative or you'll be shamed out of existence. Now, the author says that he consulted business owners and friends in his field who are responsible for hiring in various companies, and here's how they said they deal with this hysteria in the workplace. We will probably not hire women if they have to work together with men. And further, we have to consider gender segregation at the workplace as a next step. So we hire women only for positions where we can make a team out of them, and where we have to hire a spot in the male-dominated parts, we hire additional men. One of my colleagues from a US tech company gave, for me, a more horrific answer when I asked him about this notion. We are considering to drop our female staffers in the non-support teams. This way we can eliminate the risk, and from the outside, it looks like we just have a 90-10 split, which is low but not unreasonable for a tech company. He goes on, I think this is a shocking conclusion, but I have to say it makes perfect sense when I heard their reasoning. Even an unproven or false allegation can cost a company a significant sum of money. For some businesses, it could even mean bankruptcy because clients could drop them. They can't bear the expensive legal fees, or the media outrage kills their reputation. And I don't know anyone who's willing to take that kind of risk. Adding to that, the risk of possible pregnancy that some call for sick leave when they have their period, and the whole depiction of women in the mainstream media, and you have the perfect mix for high risk, high cost, low reward. Officially, we will of course never promote this. If somebody asks about stuff like that, we will just say that the teams can work better this way. But we don't risk our core team that makes money just to fulfill a quota. Google and co can do that and cripple themselves in legal affairs. Now, the next part is potentially controversial for some, but it shouldn't be. It's just common sense. Why should we hire women? Well, it hurts me to say, but maybe we shouldn't if this is how women behave in today's world. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to hire someone that can potentially cost you more time and money, with the addition that you have to create special rules for all other employees. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for small companies that don't have the time to fill irrelevant diversity and inclusion quotas because they're too busy just trying to keep the lights on. Now, the author then brings up an aspect of this panic that gets overlooked because women are too busy drowning in their own victim narratives to take notice. The damage is done. A lot of men I know in their private lives shifted in the last years from "I want to help women" to I don't care anymore. This applies especially to young men in their 20s, but also older veterans and older women that could be great mentors. Maybe that is, in a way, how it should be and a sign of equality, but I'm really concerned that the recent demonising and outright lying will shift this a lot further. Movements like MGTOW get more and more members and momentum, and every time women say men are the problem, get with the program, they annihilate more men for their side and push them to see women just as rivals. So how does this play out in the real world? Well, perhaps something like this. Women in politics fear #MeToo movement will backfire, and they'll be the ones punished. Female staffers and lobbyists who returned to the Capitol last week for pre-session meetings discovered many male legislators will no longer meet with them privately. Accustomed to Tallahassee's southern culture where men and women casually and routinely greet each other with hugs, legislators are doing an awkward dance to replace a hug with a handshake. And the fear of retaliation against women who brought forward allegations or those who may in the future is as raw as the fear that legislators' political enemies could turn sexual harassment claims into new political weapons. I had a senator say, "I need my aide here in the room because I need a chaperone," said Jennifer Green, a veteran lobbyist, after meeting with the senator in his Capitol office to discuss a client's issue. I said, "Senator, why do you need a chaperone? I don't feel uncomfortable around you. Do you feel uncomfortable around me?" "Well," he said, "anyone can say anything with the door shut." Now, of course, this will be met with cries of victim blaming, and women will be the ones that miss out, which is exactly what this article goes on to suggest. But if women are going to blame all men, then I say reap what you sow. No doubt more moderate voices will say, hold on, men and women need to work together to solve this problem. But at this point, why should men come to the table with women who are utterly unreasonable? Perhaps it's time, as Camille Paglia suggested, to recognise that men and women are fundamentally different, and that might mean that we have to put up with some tension in the workplace, or perhaps even more extreme, that it has to be segregated to some extent. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.